What's up, Self-Strong Nation? Joe Simons, like diamonds.
And Luke Simons.
We're here podcasting, YouTubing. We just got off the water. If you're wondering why we look like this, and you probably see a little sunscreen in my white beard. Yeah, it's not real gray hair. That's sunscreen.
That's what they all say.
Anyhow, we're talking about leader line. Mono versus fluoro. Fluoro leader versus just buying a big old spool of fluoro. We've done a few tests, and we're doing this because it's interesting.
Not a few tests. We've done a lot of tests.
A lot of tests.
And more coming soon, but we've done a lot of testing. And it's an important topic.
Yes.
And a lot of people, in my opinion, are wasting money. And we're here to make sure that you're not one of them. Because I did for many years, and I'm upset about it.
I still do sometimes. It's tough because we want to believe that when you spend more money on something like this red label or blue label or diamond cut, we got crystal cut. I mean, we have all these different things, and you want to believe that it works better. But we've proven time and time again in these tests, we have nothing to gain from this. We don't sell this stuff. We have nothing to gain from this at all except to give you guys the facts. And this is not us preaching. This is a constant experiment. This is why we've done many videos. But the reason we're doing this in particular, we've had a lot of people recently on our blog post and even in our community have said, hey, I use fluoro because of this. And they'll say not strength, right? Or they say it's more abrasion resistant or it's invisible. And like, one, it's definitely not invisible. I mean, you can take it in any color, any kind of color or size fluoro and just put it in the water and you're going to be able to see it. It's not invisible. It might be...
Well, people say it is. It's not.
It might be...
It would be nice if it was.
Less visible than maybe mono or some of them, but it's not invisible.
Yep.
And we've also had people have said they've bought it because it's more abrasion resistant. We've definitely proved that that's wrong. And so far, and I want to hammer this one because this is probably the one that people are wasting the most money on, at least from our experiments, is buying a liter, right? Like, how much does this cost?
It's 25 yards. I'm like, so this is the one that I used to buy. It's Cigar Blue Label. It's probably the most popular.
Okay, so here's
this
Cigar
is
Blue.
known as like the Cadillac of fluorocarbon lines. 25 yards is $23, plus or minus.
25 yards.
So it's $1 a yard almost. It's a lot of. I mean, that's a lot of money for line. Whereas, if we go on the mono side, like this spool, 30-pound leader, 30-pound fishing line, 25 yards is $24. Here we have 30-pound fishing line, 440 yards. That was like $6. So I'm not gonna do the math on that, but it's like a cent a yard or whatever.
So what are you using yourself?
I'm switching up. I mean, I've been switching around because I still don't know. I mean, I've tested a lot. So there's three things that I really care about. Number one is visibility. Obviously, we have to factor that in. If we're in clear water, if we're not in clear water, it doesn't really matter that much. Number two is just knot strength. When you're fighting a fish, every single fight you have, you need strength.
Yep.
And I have proven that one way or the other. And then number three is abrasion resistance, like especially going after snook, tarpon, even bass. I mean, if you have any sort of fish with like sandpaperish like mouth, they shake their head, they're rubbing that line.
Yeah.
Snook are amazingly good at it. I lost a nice one today.
Yeah,
because
I did
of
too.
it.
Or even if you're fishing structure, right? I mean, with a redfish or anything else. So.
Yeah, so it needs to withstand abrasion. And I thought for many years, and that's why I was buying this stuff every time, is I thought that fluorocarbon was better for all three of them, like without question. And if you ask most people, that's what they say. And so it's pretty easy to test abrasion resistance. I built this little stand over here.
Oh, let's pull this guy out here.
Well, I don't have the bar for it. But anyhow, we have a ton of videos, and it's basically a way to rub lines. So I have a rod with sandpaper on it, and you move it back and forth, or you just twist it, and it has the exact same tension. And rubbing up against sandpaper, 100% of the time, monofilament won. So monofilament.
Say that again. Got to be a repeater here.
Yeah, 100% of the time, monofilament line won on the beat fluorocarbon on the abrasion resistance. And it was even so.
And we tested different brands.
Yeah, multiple brands. And one thing to know with fluorocarbon relative to mono, in most cases, fluorocarbon is going to be thinner. And so I took that into account. I had some of this Andy line. It was Andy. 20-pound Andy is what I was, and there's a whole article I did on this.
Old school Andy.
So 20-pound Andy I put up against 20-pound Blue Label, and Andy won significantly. But is that really fair because Andy is thicker, right? Was it the line type, or is it the fact that Andy was thicker, and that's why it won? So I got a different line. In that case, it was this Yozuri. I had it in 25. I have the spool in here somewhere, but the 25-pound Yozuri was the same diameter. It was actually a little bit thicker than the Andy, and the Andy still beat it. So
but still, if you're going to your tackle box or on your boat, you're not looking at the diameter. You're looking at the pound. So
correct.
You're just trying to be super fair.
Oh yeah. I wanted to see, was it the diameter or was it the type?
Yeah.
But the diameter is important. I think that's a diameter, something that most people don't think about, and they should, because fish feel the line as well, and the thicker diameter, the more fish can feel it. So diameter is an important factor, but when measuring abrasion, it would be totally unfair to not equate the two. And again, in that one case, I had a 25-pound fluorocarbon against a 20-pound mono. The mono was slightly thinner. It was just the closest I had, and the mono still won. So I believe without a doubt, monofilament line, traditional monofilament line, is actually more abrasion resistant than fluorocarbon. In reality, fluorocarbon is a monofilament line. It's just a different type. It's a little bit more dense. So they're not two different lines. But most people say they are, so we'll go with that. But as far as abrasion, as I said before, traditional monofilament has won every time. I was totally shocked. I thought that this thing was off, so I was like switching sides, making sure the weights were the same. Like it was shocking.
Yeah, you've done it every which way to Sunday, and that's why this is a summary of everything that we've learned so far, and then we're also going to talk about what we're doing next with these lines. So we got abrasion.
Yeah, and then abrasions, and then knot strength is the other one.
Yeah.
Right, and so I've done a lot of knot tests. We actually just bought a really nice test facility where we can measure the precise, whatever it's called. It's a stand over there.
It's more like a stand, but it's a facility.
Yeah, but a stand, and it does everything. It basically has an extremely nice tension gauge, and it's a stand where you can it'll be a very structured test. Before, I've always done one knot against the other, and I literally just pull until the weakest one breaks, and I just measure the breaking point with like a normal scale, and it was close enough, but knowing which one was stronger than the other was what I really wanted. And so with this new tool, we'll be able to know the precise breaking point of all this stuff. So
it's basically the most expensive tool for testing line strength that we could buy.
Yeah. Set us back.
We had to get a loan for this thing.
But
once again, it's our curiosity, to know what really works. Not just to save money, because I don't mind spending more money if I know something works, right? I mean, I don't mind spending a little, even a lot more money if I know it's going to help me catch more fish. But it's interesting with all the stuff out there. I mean, look at this, Cody. Look, I mean, this is just a sample. Luke's got other bins like this, and all these different companies. No one has really published any like scientific test on it. It's mind-boggling.
Well, there's not anything there's stuff out there, but it's all done by the manufacturers. They'll put it at an angle that favors them, right? There's not all-encompassing.
Which is what I said.
Correct.
Meaning science means you go fair and balanced. You take out as many of the variables as possible, not just use one perfect 3-foot area of water where you couldn't actually see fluorocarbon line, which I believe is what's happened. And so we're in the midst of reading a lot of these books as well, basically just trying to engulf ourselves and to learn as much as possible about what fish really see and take a real scientific approach. And one of the very first books that came out, and a lot of you older anglers who have been around a while and fished for 30, 40, 50 years probably remember this book. It's called The Scientific Angler by Paul Johnson. And he was the first guy that as a really diehard angler and scientist, started going down in the water with tanks on and observing all these fish. And the book is like wild, the stuff he discovered. And he even made a point. He's like, there's been a lot of manufacturers that do not want this book out there, and a lot of them sent him hate mail because, he says in there multiple times with scuba gear, he's like, there has not been a single line or line color or line type that you can't see. There's not one that's invisible. And a lot of people say, well, gosh, why did the fish even did they not get scared? He's like, I saw fish strike a lure right in front of me as a scuba diver, and I could see the boat. He's like, just because fish see something doesn't automatically mean they're scared of it, right? I mean, how many times have you caught a fish right near your boat? Any interesting
It's just
thing.
like, I'm afraid of my line, but I'm going to have a big treble hook.
Right.
Like, if they're really that picky.
And how many of you have caught a fish on a treble hook or a lure that has 2 or 3 massive treble hooks? I mean, there's all this terminal tackle stuff that people tend to forget about, and we're spending a lot of time talking about line. But the other book is What Fish See, and that was an optics specialist. He's actually a doctor of optics, an optometrist, and he went down to try to disprove some of Paul Johnson's stuff, and they even discovered more. And we're going to do a whole other podcast on that because it's a fascinating thing about what fish actually see in terms of line, in terms of leader, in terms of braid, and of course in terms of lure, which is why we came up with Slam Shady, based on the findings in that book. But anyhow, back to this. Let's get
big tangent there. Big tangent.
Hey, that's what podcasts are for, right? We're talking about lines.
But yeah, the big thing though is, again, for many years I was buying the expensive fluorocarbon thinking that it was more abrasion resistant, it was stronger, and it was invisible. Because that's what everybody's saying. And that's a big problem with the industry, is that there's really, it's everything's sponsorship driven. That's why we set up Salt Strong the way we did, where it's 100% funded by members, so that our loyalty is to the fishermen and not to the manufacturers. Because as soon as you tie yourself with manufacturers, you're now saying stuff that may or may not know it's not true, but there's no incentive to actually find the actual answer.
Right.
It's incentivized to sell somebody's products, because then they're going to give you more sponsorship money.
Yeah.
Which
is fine. It's part of the industry.
That's just how it works.
But
that's just how it works.
Once again, why we exist, to go put like science to this and see what happens. So we already uncovered the answers to abrasion. Now we have knot strength.
Knot strength, yeah, and that's something that until now I haven't been able to measure. I can't say that fluorocarbon is X% stronger, but it is. I mean, it is definitely stronger. I've done a lot of knot tests. Again, it's putting 2 lines together and pulling until it breaks. And I can't say every time, because I've never had
fluoro stronger or mono?
A mono stronger. So is that what I said?
You said fluoro.
Yeah.
Oh boy. See, this is why we're doing this.
Yeah.
A lot of bad information out there. People slipping up left and right.
Yeah. So monofilament, traditional mono. Technically, fluoro is a mono, so I was right. But a traditional monofilament line, even just the bulk spool stuff, has been beating the expensive fluorocarbon line that is made for liters. And soon I'll be able to test a precise difference. And maybe that's wrong too, because what I haven't done on the knot test is equate the diameters. I've been equating the pound strength. And technically that's not fair to fluorocarbon, because they're thinner. Because even in knots, right, it's just...
I don't know, but still, if you're asking your friend, hey, can I borrow a liter? And they say, what do you need? You say 30 pound, you don't say the diameter.
I know, but the truth is that a 30-pound line will almost always have a breaking strength that is higher. And so, because of the strength rating is the minimum breaking strength that they basically guarantee. So in most cases, the actual breaking strength is going to be higher. So I mean, the true way to test how good a line is, like what I want to know is, what is the strongest line per diameter? Like, what is the strength of the line per diameter? Because fish feel. Like in many cases, fish will react to a line more on the feel versus the sight, in my opinion. So I'm very interested. I'll be measuring all the diameters of these lines, and I'll be analyzing based on diameter more than pound, because some companies might get super aggressive and like their true breaking strength is 21 pounds and they market at 20 because they want to have the thinnest diameter. Another one could say, oh, I just want to have the strongest line. Let me get a 30-pound line and call it 20.
Yeah.
Because they can. Like there's no rule that I know of that requires them to get as close as they can as possible. Because it's impossible, right? Like in the U.S., all the lines are like a 20-pound, a 25-pound, a 30-pound. If you go overseas, which a lot of these are, this is 21.8 pounds. Like they actually give the true 21.9 pounds. Like it literally...
35.7?
Yeah, so there's like no even numbers because it's impossible to have an exact, precise even number. Or not impossible, but it's very unlikely. And so I think the true gauge is on diameter, personally. And the fact that fluoro has a thinner diameter, to make it fair, we basically need to be pairing like 25-pound monos against 20.
You got to do both, because once again, the average angler couldn't even guess the diameter. They're going into a tackle store, or Bass Pro, wherever, and saying, oh, it says 20, that's what I need, and it's 24 versus 20 mono. Like today, really interesting, we didn't even purposely do this, but we have been given, where is it? Some of that new stuff. Here it is, right here. No, it's right here. So I'd use some of this. This is fluoro that someone had sent to us. I don't even know who the brand is. Seawork, you get a little shout out, X, Seawork X. And use this, caught and lost one of the snook. And then I switched back to just old school mono. I believe it was just the Berkeley Trilene, just old school mono. This stuff, it's super cheap. And we have a lot of Andy too. I mean, you can see this is the Andy that we first started using. Look at that old school. Dude, that's old school. It's good enough for our dad and grandfather to catch big old monster snook on it, right? Catching a legit 20-pound snook on that. That's old school. Anyhow, and ended up catching another redfish, snook, and even that shark. All on this old school stuff. So I actually caught more fish.
Well, that wasn't that old. That's like 20 years old.
Oh no, I'm just, this is a hyperbole. Is that right? Is that a word? I apologize to everyone. I promise there would be no really in-depth, high tough to pronounce words.
Difficult words. So, what he's trying to say is that just traditional...
What my partner here is trying to say.
So, because over the past, once I started realizing the fact that the abrasion thing is a myth, and the knot strength as far as fluorocarbon lines, I haven't bought a single fluoro. All this stuff is, I bought some just for testing, but I'm now, for my personal usage, I'm just using mono. And but I have been switching because I've had a lot of fluorocarbons around. So I've been switching from fluoro to mono just to see if there's a difference. Yep. And I mean, I really can't.
Like, we've had a lot of guides, full-time fishing guides for taking clients out that have sent us messages thanking us, saying because of watching all these tests that they've now switched to mono and they have not seen a difference. And they're saving a ton of money. I mean, you're talking about going through a lot of leader line as a fishing guide.
So where I think it's most important is areas with just super clear water, though. And but we went filming down in Miami with Peter Miller like a year and a half ago. And I went out, I just took 20-pound fluoro. It was 20-pound mono. I keep saying the wrong one. So I had normal mono in Biscayne Bay, and I caught a ton of fish with lures. I was using gulp shrimp that day. And I had a fun video on it. I caught like a flounder too, which is supposedly rare down there. I caught a nice flounder, bunch of big snapper, and it was a blast. And again, it was just proof that even in clear water, fluorocarbon isn't essential. Like, it's not a make or break. It may help you catch more. That's what we're trying to find out. And so coming soon, we're going to be testing. That's why we have all these lines laid out. Is I want to do a detailed test on the visibility spectrum.
Yep. So that's the last thing.
That's the more important one.
Yeah. So to reiterate, if you're still here listening, there's three main things. And 2 out of 3, we have proven over and over again that mono beats fluoro. So the only thing left remaining that's still an unknown is the visibility. And I think we can all agree fluoro is not invisible, right? I mean, there have been studies showing that you can see it in pretty much any type of water. Now, there might be one spectrum in somewhere, if you're in deep water, there might be some area where it does kind of turn invisible based on the angle of the light. But in general, it's still visible. The question is it more or less visible than mono?
Yeah, but the science behind it, the science on behalf of fluorocarbon is that the refractive index is similar to the refractive index of salt water.
My head's about to explode here.
So what that means is that as light goes through, the fact that its index is closer to salt water, there's not as much bending of light compared to normal mono, which the index is a little bit off. And so that the true debate on visibility is refraction important or is reflection important? I personally feel, so far there's been no test that reflection of light off the outer coating of the line is any difference. And I personally think that fish see the light that's reflecting off the outer surface of the line, not the change in refraction as light goes through the line. That's really that's the science behind it.
So explain the difference for people a little bit slow like myself.
Well,
so let's just say a fish is looking at the line. What's the difference in reflection? You mean it's like
reflection is just like right here, right? Like we can just put these lines out, and we are seeing the reflection of light on the lines.
Or are we seeing the refraction?
I think we're seeing reflection.
So I don't know. These are legit questions.
Yeah. Either way, regardless of what the thing is, I don't know. I'm not a scientist.
So maybe Cody seeing it that way is seeing one, and we're seeing the other. Right?
Again, I just think that, that you can just see the actual exterior of the thing. I think it's reflection. But anyhow, what we're going to do is we're going to get all these lines. Got a little picture frame here. And we're going to get about 20 lines and just all half-inch apart. And we're going to go sink it, put it underwater, record it, film it from the top looking down, like on seagrass, looking down on sand, looking just down on different bottom contours. Different water clarities, and then also do some looking up, right? Looking up at the towards the sun, cloudy day, sunny day, and just get a bunch of footage and just post it out there so that we all can see if there's a difference or not.
Yep. And here's the bad news, though. Based on these books I'm reading, it still won't be 100% conclusive.
Oh, absolutely.
What it will tell us is what the human eye can see, because a GoPro, which is what you're going to use, I assume, is going to be just what a human eye would see. That's how these cameras are built. Fish have completely different eyes, and they're certainly more perceptive to light in general than us. But at the same point, some of these fish, not necessarily colorblind, but can't see certain colors as well. So that'll be interesting as well to test. But man, so when are you doing this? Coming up real soon?
Yeah, as soon as we can get out. I'll start it. I'm setting it up tonight. And then we'll start going out there, and obviously it'll take a while because I need to go to different areas, different water clarities, and different just even conditions, sunny versus cloudy.
Yep.
And we'll see how it goes. I'm excied for it. And if you are a scientist, so we are by no means scientists.
Clearly,
we're not going to
we're buffoons, if anything.
Yeah, we're really just on a quest to find the truth, and it's not gonna be solved tomorrow. And there's just a lot of variables. There's a lot of different lines. I've tested out a lot of brands, like even on knot strength. Different lines react to knots differently. So it's going to be shocking if there's an all-encompassing conclusion that you have to go mono or you have to go fluoro, because there's going to be some monos, there's going to be some really good monos, there's going to be some bad fluoros, there's going to be some really good fluoros.
Let's talk about that while we're here.
Yeah, that's to be determined.
Meaning in just what you've seen so far, is there a brand that seems to have better line? I know when we were doing just so you guys know the backstory on this, we were doing a little investigating ourselves and reached out to some of the bigger fluoro distributors, and it turns out, I think they told us there's like basically 3 manufacturers, and I believe they're all in Japan. If you look at most of these things, it says, here's even our good old friends at AFCO, made in Japan. Most of these are made in Japan or Italy, seem to be like the 2 countries
Italy's a big one,
kind of own all of, but I think Italy they weren't manufacturing it, they were like one of the bigger distributors. Anyhow, there's only like 3 main places that have the raw materials to make this, and I believe all these companies are kind of using the same 3 manufacturers. Same with fishing lures, right? Where we have Slam Shady made, tons of other lure manufacturers use the same manufacturing plants. It's part of the business, part of any industry. But what makes Seagar,
Slam Shady 2.0.
Huh?
Slam Shady 2.0, not the original.
Of course, yeah. The first one's about Z-Man. They only make Z-Man. But what makes Seagar better than ABC, Andy Company, or
I don't know. Probably the marketing. The marketing is a big part of it. And again, for years, I thought that it was without a doubt you had to go fluorocarbon. If not, you're just planning on not catching anything.
Yeah, people think we were idiots when we first started saying we're using mono again. We're like, well, we're still catching a lot of fish.
Yeah, and so in fishing line, I've definitely found that that just price doesn't guarantee value, and it's been sprayed even on like the leader line versus the main line. I don't know if we covered it, but most lines come in either a leader, like a little small thing like this, where it's like very expensive, or a big spool. Like Berkeley Vantage has a big spool, but I found a Red Label was the first one that I found that actually had a spool of 250 yards with Seagar Red Label, as well as a 25-yard spool. that was branded, this one branded as leader, the other one branded as mainline, and I did the abrasion test on it, and I couldn't tell any difference at all. So, again, for years I thought that for leaders, we have to get a leader line. We couldn't use a main line. And that at least has been proven false on the handful of times I've tested.
You would just do the eyeball test and the field test. It's almost like they took the exact same line from the exact same spool and cut it into a 25-yard line and said, hey, we're going to charge you 5 times more.
But also, I mean, part of it's convenience. Like, it is just way more convenient to have this because...
I think it's way more convenient to have more money in my wallet.
Yeah.
Dang.
But the other...
right, Cody? Yeah, he's like, of course it does.
But what they say and what a lot of people say, and this very much, I think is true to some capacity at least, is that supposedly for the leader line, they actually do make it where it's supposed a little bit more abrasion resistant. So I think there is a tweak. It's just a matter of, is that tweak noticeable or not? So I'm not saying there.
So how come there hasn't been studies on that? Like, if I was marketing that, like before we came out with Slam Shady, we studied the crap out of it and we fished like crazy, and we came out and showed why this is working so well. It's weird that these companies, and if you guys are listening and you either work for or own one of these companies, once again, we're not preaching here. We're having some fun with this, obviously. But we're so curious, like, why isn't there a study on why someone would pay? Is it 4 times more?
It all depends. No, I mean, like,
just in general for the leader line?
Just think $1. Oh yeah, this actually I had that thing up. So
yeah, I'm talking about.
It was 50 cents a yard at the leader material, and then it was like 6 cents a yard when you buy it on the main line. So it's a big difference. Wow. It was almost a times 10.
For fluoro.
And it was all fluoro. So that was a liter fluoro versus a mainline fluoro.
Yep, got it.
Big price difference. When you go a liter fluoro to a mainline mono, it was $6 for 440 yards.
Yeah.
That's a crazy difference. And again, is there a difference? Probably. Is it worth the extra money?
We don't know.
Up to be determined.
We don't know.
But yeah, so far I've been switching again back and forth. The good news is if you use regular mono, that doesn't guarantee you're not going to catch fish. If anything, yes. I really can't tell much of a difference. I feel like I lose less fish, like snook. If I hook a big snook accidentally, like targeting redfish and stuff, and I hook a big snook with 20-pound mono, I'm way more confident if it's on mono than if it's on fluoro.
Why?
Just because after the knot test, like I know, I'm now 100% confident that is better, and I think a lot of it's confidence. Like that Jimmy Kimmel show, remember that test they did on coffee? It's amazing how somebody's mind can see things that aren't really there. So if you haven't seen this thing, go to Google. Jimmy Kimmel was it?
We'll have to put it in the show notes.
Yeah, it was.
So what happened?
So Starbucks got this like $7 coffee, and so they wanted to do a taste test to people to coffee aficionados.
Was it even real, or they just made up the name?
I don't know if it was real or not.
I think they just made it up, just see what would happen.
So either way, the people thought that they were sitting down, and then 1 cup of coffee was this $7. They call it the Costa Rican bean, something or other.
Yeah, very special bean.
So special bean, and that's why it's so expensive. And then another cup they said was just normal Starbucks coffee. And then and he was like, well, we didn't want to buy that coffee, and so we just got like normal coffee and put the same coffee in both cups. And it was shocking. These people, coffee aficionados, like these weren't just people who don't drink coffee, like they were like super like coffee people, and they were coming up with why they thought this one in particular was it. I go, yeah, this like one of the girls saying it's so beany, right? Because she heard that it was a Costa Rican. One guy was like doing some analysis, like, yeah,
I can taste the oak in here.
Yeah, and he was like, for like a cost per ounce, he was really getting into it. He's like, yeah, I would pay $3 extra for this one, and they're the same thing. And then this biker guy comes up, and I taste him, he goes, tastes the same to me. But anyhow, so it's just really interesting the fact that they had it in their mind that one of them was better than the other, and then they started seeing things that weren't there to prove the point of what they heard. So that's why I think a lot of it is just like the placebo effect, where it's if you have confidence, that's really the most important thing. Yeah. And just like lures, right? As long as a decent lure, it's going to catch fish. It's more about being in the right spot. And just like lines, right? If you have a good line versus a great line, as long as you're in a good spot, that's all that matters. You'll catch fish regardless.
Well, it's funny. I won't name the person's name, but he was on our boat, and you had just published one of your very first investigatory little videos on this, and he was like, "Man, that was so cool. I learned a whole lot about why you should use mono over fluoro." And then all of a sudden, he was on our boat and went straight to tying a leader with fluoro. And so I think it does come down to that, once you get in that mindset
100%.
of, hey, this is just what I've been told. That's why we're here. That's why we're doing this. And I'm really pumped about this next one, dude, this underwater stuff.
Yeah.
So that'll really kind of solidify all three of these. And we're not
That's the most important one, too, by the way.
Yeah,
That's the biggest... That's the biggest reason why most people buy fluoro is because I think a lot of people don't believe it truly is invisible, but in relation to mono, it's like, hey, like the fish can't see this.
Less visible.
Yeah. So anyway, that's going to be the test, and I'll be curious to get your feedback too. We're open for suggestions on how to make it as accurate as possible, and even to redo some of the other tests now that we have this legit line breaking strength tool.
Yep.
Is if you have any suggestions on just how to get just accurate data out there, because we're not trying to sell you one line versus the other. Like that doesn't that's not what we're here for. We're here to help you out and help you save money and just make smart decisions on your tackle
and catch more fish and keep more fish.
Yeah, and the fact that we're unbiased, like we have no skin in the game here. We want to learn personally, and then we want to teach it to you, and hopefully we can all be in the journey together. It's not going to be solved overnight, but it's an important thing because. No telling how much I'm like mad at myself for spending all this money on lines over the years.
Well, the great news is, as Insider members, 20% off all this stuff, regardless if you want to go buy the highest stuff. If you guys don't know, we're now, we're well over 13,000 members in our Insider Club, and it's so cool. It started with just 100 people a little over 4.5 years ago, and now 13,000. Because of that, we have discounts on everything you can imagine. Rods, reels, we got some over here, line, lures, etc. So just one more reason to join us in the club. The biggest reason we believe is just saving you time. Obviously saving the money is awesome too, but I mean, time's the one thing you can't buy back. We only have so much of it per day, and for the busy person that just wants to go out there and get in the feeding zone and catch feeding fish, even on tough days like today. I mean, we had a couple hours and it was blowing 20. I mean, it was miserable out there. We didn't see another boat.
It was a strike score of 4.5.
Yeah, strike score of 4.5, and we caught an inshore slam plus, a little shark.
And cuda.
And a cuda, yeah. So 5 species there, all in a short amount of time on a really, really crummy day. So that's the whole point of the club, and we're going out there doing it ourselves. We're living and breathing this stuff. And man, we'd love to have you in there if you're not there already. If you are, doggone it, we appreciate you. We love you. Virtual hug, virtual high five.
Yeah, no matter how busy you are, too, we have a lot of people, because we publish a lot of stuff. Some of it's public, or at least a lot of it's public, but the best stuff we obviously reserve for the club members, because that's what funds this whole thing. And what we started doing about probably 2 months ago is a lot of people are just too busy to go through. I mean, it's like a new article a day. And then so on every Friday, we just give a summation of, hey, here's what you need to know if you're going to get out fishing this weekend. Here's what the latest trends are. We have a private community. There's like 40, 50 posts a day coming from members all across the Southeast. And we basically just dissect. It's like the cliff notes, if you will.
Yeah. Here's where to go fish to catch an inshore slam.
Here's
tight lines fast.
Here's what's been happening. Yeah. And then, hey, here's what the tide's going to be doing. Here's what systems, if there's a front coming in, hey, it's been like this, but it's going to change because of this front. And we'll just give you literally the game plan every single week. So
10 minutes or less.
Yeah, a lot of people join just for that, just to make sure that when they do get out there, when they do have the time to get out, they can just maximize it.
Yep. And then of course, cool little stat saw that the average saltwater angler spends around $1,400 per year on tackle. That doesn't include boats and kayaks. That's just tackle,
rods,
accessories,
reels,
rod reels, cast nets. And we have 20% off all of that. So if you're that average guy, I spend a lot more than that, especially that $800 reel I got recently. But if you're just the average, I mean, we're talking $200 to $300. What's that?
If you're just a fraction of average, it's a smart decision, right? What's the math? 500.
Hey, we don't want to deal with people who are a fraction of averages. Like average would be the worst case, 1,400. 20% of that. We're talking hundreds of dollars saved just on that. If you're a fraction, of average, you probably don't want to be in this club. We want freaking winners in here, man. What you talk about fraction of averages? Guys, on that note, we're out of here. We're going to go arm wrestle and duke this thing out. We love you guys. Thank you so much. And stay tuned for the future future videos on all this line and leader, and we'll do stuff with braid. We have all these ideas, and we're just going to keep investing in more technology to figure this out in a science-based way, not what some manufacturer is saying. Here's why we think this is the best. So hope this is helpful. Leave a comment down below. Obviously, if you're listening on iTunes or Stitcher or Spotify, we have all this, and we have a whole show notes, and we even put the Jimmy Kimmel video. It's saltstrong.com/podcast, and you can join the club there as well. So saltstrong.com/podcast. We'll put all the show notes. So thank you guys for all the love, all the support. We be out. Peace.
More line tests coming soon.
Oh yeah.
There's something about the water that'll give you peace, all by yourself or with your family. Live salt strong and wear the line today.